everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Be Real. I am Tara.
And I'm Sheri.
And this is the moment where I realized I didn't do introductions last episode. Great.
I just realized that too.
Great.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't remember saying I'm Sheri.
Well, in the same fashion, I will continue our last episode.
Okay.
And since I left everybody on a cliffhanger of what happens to sharks if they stop moving,
Yes.
I finally got access to the Wi-Fi. So now I was able to look it up without
So
waiting
we have the
too long.
Google-ish answer. We have
the
Google's answer.
We have the short answer because
Okay.
this is the reason everyone tuned into this episode today.
Yes.
Is so some sharks will die because they use the movement through the water and that water filtering through their gills to get their oxygen. So if they don't move, they are not actively filtering water through their gills and they get no oxygen.
Okay.
No oxygen, they die.
All right.
So that's that.
Okay, so I can continue to use that. I keep moving.
Yes. Yes.
Because I'm a shark.
We
I will
can
die.
keep using the analogy.
Okay. All right. For me, it's sleep, not death. Okay. All right. Okay, so now we can move on.
Now we can move
All right,
on. We almost got carried away talking about this episode before we actually pressed record. So
Right.
Sheri, take it away.
Okay, so what we were talking about today is the idea of people moving into a new place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to meet new people, trying to make connections.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in a very interesting place, right? We live in South Florida.
Yep.
And people here, and this is, I think, more so in the last 10 years, I think,
Okay.
worse, right? But we all, like a lot of people here, we just kind of go about our day and just are only thinking about our tunnel, right?
Yeah.
And so hearing this from a lot of new people that I have as clients saying to me, how do you meet people around here? Like, this is not, I'm not used to this.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to make connections. How do you meet people, like either for future partners or even just friends, right?
That's a hard one.
It's hard because you're an adult, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to be like, you want to go on a play date with me. That's not what we're doing, right? You know?
That's adorable.
Right, it
like
is
that.
adorable, and then you looked weird saying that.
I
But
guess so.
right, but you know, it's hard for people to make connections at really any age.
Yeah.
When you move to a new place, and we live in a place where people are constantly coming in, and people leaving. So, and then let's say, you know, people telling me that if they're not, like, they don't enjoy their job and they're not connecting with people there, which a lot of times that's where we find connections, is with people we work with.
Yeah.
And if people you work with are not similar to you or have a completely different, let's say everybody's married and you're not, and everybody has kids, or everybody's older and you're the younger person, and you're just trying to start all of that, where do you meet?
Yeah. So the question that keeps coming up, and this is coming up in sessions for you, correct?
Yes.
It's so interesting because it happens to me. I'm guessing it happens to you as well. It happens to our friend Sawyer in the room as well. And it's a matter of, after you're in these like cohorts, whether it's high school or college or like these specific groups where you are constantly grouped with similar people,
Right.
and it's usually by age and interest. Like, once you get to your fourth year in college, you're in a pretty I went to a huge school. You went to a huge school.
Yeah.
Where you actually do see the same people over and over again in your classes because you're about to graduate
Right.
with a specific degree, and you're seeing people over and over
Right.
again. So you've got your defined group, and then what happens after that?
Right. What if I move? Because for me, I'm a bad example of all that. Well, a good example, I guess, because I've lived here my entire life. I went away to school 2 hours away. And I'm still friends with my high school friends.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm also somebody that I can meet anybody anywhere. I'll talk to anybody. People yell at me for talking to strangers. That's what my dad does, the same thing. Right. So for me, even knowing that about me, meeting new people is still a difficult thing, right? If I'm with my same group of people, I'm not going to meet anybody else.
Sure.
Like, people are scared to go up to other people. Like, if I'm sitting at dinner with 3 other girls, what is the likelihood that a guy is going to come up and talk to me? Right? Because I'm single, right? So, you know, newly single. So
that's not an invitation. She's not mingling.
I've been told I'm not allowed. So, but let's say I was ready, right? And would I think it was weird if someone came up and started talking to me, even if I'm sitting at the bar, which that should be normal, right?
Sure.
But I think more and more people are afraid, especially men, to talk to women. That's why we resort to the apps, right?
Yeah.
It's just easier. It's like you're shopping a catalog.
And it's a clear invitation.
Yes.
Right.
I'm available. Well, not always really. I'm available enough that I'm telling you that I'm looking for somebody right now.
Yeah. There's an invitation I'm here to receive conversation.
Right.
About how attractive I am to you and how attractive you are to me.
Exactly.
Yeah, but there aren't. Well, I was gonna say there aren't friend apps. There are. Bumble does a friends version of their app, but I've used it. I have friends that have used it, and it doesn't have a great success rate, even with the amount of people that are like same level of invitation, right? Looking for friends. And I mean, you can still get the same level of stories you get from online dating too, or app dating.
I'm sure.
But yeah, what about the organics of meeting somebody?
Right. Does that really exist?
Well,
as
of course
much
it does.
as it did in the past,
No.
right?
No.
When we didn't have the option of apps or Facebook groups or
all these middlemen now that we get to rely on.
Right. Which you'd think it would be easier because of that. But it's harder. Like we've lost those skills, I guess.
Yeah, when you're out and about around real life people, and I mean, I'm guilty of still being on my phone, and I know plenty of stories of people who are still swiping while they're at the nightclub, and I'm like, wait,
what about the real people around you? Right?
What's the point?
Exactly, right?
That's pretty funny.
You don't take this, well, this is a really old statement. Nobody uses the Sears catalog and hasn't in years, but you're not taking the Sears catalog with you to another store.
Sure.
Right? So just to, clarify, it was not Sears catalog person time. I'm not that old.
Okay.
But
thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Sheri.
But the idea is that still, like, we have no we've lost this huge ability to connect with people, right? When I hear a client say, I was sitting outside with my dog outside of a restaurant, and I thought if I could talk to these people next to me that have dogs too, that there would be some kind of connection. And they're like, nah, the person really didn't even respond. So we get caught up in that, nobody responded to me, so I'm not going to try again.
So I want to push back on that thought.
Yes,
I don't think that we've lost our sense of connection. I think it has mutated.
Okay.
But the feedback that we get in the digital world, which is the mutation, right? That's our preference. Trends will say that tends to be our preference, right? That's why there's so much diversity in these apps.
Right.
I think we translate the evidence and the lessons we get from that into our public, social, in-person lives as well. So fear of rejection, fear of ghosting, fear of all of these things that are coming from those platforms. Like digitally, 10 years ago, being ghosted online probably wasn't as big of a fear as it is now.
Right.
Because it's so
I don't
much
even
more
think
prevalent.
then I even knew what that word was.
Well, yeah, the word didn't exist in terms of that, but being ignored or digitally rejected in a way of like, oh, I gave them my phone number. I gave them my phone number and they never called. Like stared at my landline and they never called. There's nothing on my answering machine.
Right.
Like that was ghosting.
Right.
Right. And then if you watched Sex and the City and then they somehow ran into each other on Broadway, like
right, with millions of other people that happen to write. Yes.
I mean, of course, if you don't want to run into them, that's what will happen.
Right.
But
exactly.
That's a different story.
Right.
So I'm not convinced that we've lost connection.
Okay.
Good. We just are determined to find it in other ways. And then when we have access to what's the former way, we're not bringing back those skills, even for folks like you and I who have built those skills because we were here before apps. We were here before all that stuff. I'm not going to be inclined to use all those skills every time I'm out and about.
Right, because it feels weird. Well, at least to me. Well, to me it doesn't because that's just my natural personality. But that doesn't mean other people don't feel that way, right? When my friends are like, Sheri, why are you talking to that random person?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They said something to me. I went with it, right? It just seems natural and normal
Yeah.
to me. But not everybody feels that way. And if you're an introvert, then you're really in trouble.
Oh gosh, yeah. I remember myself in college, and I feel like that person is so foreign to me and how I am now. So I was the ultimate extrovert when I was in college. And now I'm very much an ambivert, where I love my individual time, where it's just me and my dog, or me and my book,
Right.
or me and my TV show, or whatever regenerative time I can take for myself.
Exactly.
But then I also really seek out energy from other people.
Yes.
Like, I will go into the room where my partner is just to absorb that energy and not have a single word exchange between the two of us.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Or I'll get excited about like getting invited to certain co-working events or parties or like any kind of event
Right.
where I can engage and interact. And as an entrepreneur, I really have to be comfortable with engaging in conversation. So as I'm talking myself through this, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm getting back a little bit to my extroversion. As I was in the TSA line this past weekend, I handed my card to the person in front of me because they were decked out in Penn State lacrosse gear.
Oh.
And I was like, how's your mental health? Here you go.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah,
that's what I did at the Social Security office, right? Well, when I was changing my name, and the guy next to me, I was like, he's like, what do you do? I'm a therapist. And he's like, oh, I need a therapist. I'm like, here you go.
Here you go.
Right? Yeah. But I don't hand that out as a, here, call me.
Right.
For a date,
Yeah,
right?
no, that's different.
That would be, well, especially in my career, that would be really not right.
No.
But,
you'd have to have a different card.
I have to have a different card, yes, for sure, right?
But my point was, in college, I was up till 4 a.m. doing homework with people I worked and lived with. I was out everywhere. I had so many different groups of people who I knew who knew me. Like, there wasn't a corner of campus that I couldn't touch where I would recognize somebody or feel in my zone.
Right.
And now I'm like, oh, what have I done?
Right.
I've lost a lot of those skills because I'm not practicing them.
Right. Because you're in a different environment now, right? And we want different things at a different age.
Right. And I moved for college. I moved over 1,000 miles for college, and I've moved even further since. Right. So I went to Michigan, massive school. Right. So the fact that every corner of that campus I felt at home, I think that says a lot about how much I was stretching myself, sometimes very thin.
Right.
But now I'm in a smaller, this county gets smaller and smaller by the day.
For sure.
I don't like it most of the time, but it's fine. In business, it's great.
Yeah.
Socially, not so much. I'm like, could I just
all
not
the same people
run into these people?
Right. It's the same people over and over again. Right.
But this is a huge county. Palm Beach is
absolutely
massive. People who don't know South Florida, open up your map and look at how long and wide Palm Beach is.
Of course, right? And this whole South Florida area is huge.
The Tri-County area?
Yes, the Tri-County, yeah.
Exactly. So the fact that now I found my social group to be so small and so minimal, and I don't have my corners, I don't have my resources,
right,
as we could call them, that I used to, like, what do I do to kind of reach out to more people?
Right.
My best friend that I met in middle school, she still lives in Texas. Can't rely on her for, a happy hour here. I can't,
right.
We're not going to be able to do that very often.
Right. And at different parts in your life, right, we all start to change what we can have a happy hour or not, whether we have kids or not kids or,
she's child free like me, so I get lucky with that one.
You don't have to worry about that, right? But again, she's on the other side of the country.
Yeah,
right?
that doesn't help.
Unless you're having a virtual happy hour, which, that's so very pandemic,
Well, that's a good point that we got to bring up the pandemic too.
Yes. Yeah. And I think now everybody's wanting more again, wanting to connect again and trying to figure out. I know we have for a while now, but enough that we're not in that anymore. So we don't have that as an excuse why I can't meet new people.
Yeah. You had brought up work earlier, which I think is a really interesting one too, that work tends to be a place where a lot of folks a long time ago would meet their friends, partners, and all of that would be centralized around that.
Right.
And then there was a period where that was kind of frowned upon, like separate all of that.
Right.
And now I think we're kind of getting back into, I don't know if you're noticing the same.
I am. I'm noticing the same the same trend that you're talking about, but at the same time, like what's allowable and what's not versus like if, let's say for our career, like if you work in any other career, your customer could potentially be a mate or a friend. The eight people or eight to 10 people I see a day are not going to be my friend or my partner. No. Right. I absolutely cannot allow that to happen. Right. So it's not like that's just frowned upon. That's a big no-no, right? Yeah. Obviously. So, and then by the end of the day, you're kind of spent, right? And you're that energy you speak of being able to get from other people. I'm so absorbed by all that energy. I have to like let that go. And that's why like a day or an evening at the beach would be amazing, right?
Yeah.
But it would be nice to be able to meet other people to be able to experience that with as well. So how do you find that when you're not in an environment, when you're in an environment like I am in, right, where I can't, I mean, my coworkers are all women and I'm looking for a man or, whatever. Yeah, I make friends with the people I work with,
sure,
but I'm also the boss. So that's also hard too. Like how much do you balance
dual
that,
relationships,
right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, I'm just I'm making it about myself, but at the same point, there's so many new people moving here. How do we get them all together? And before we started this, you said you had an idea. So,
well, I'm a part of a lot of, or a few, I guess, groups specifically for entrepreneurs.
Right.
So lots of opportunity to practice my pitch, shaking hands, putting myself out there. I go to networking events, especially I guess it was the middle of quarantine, so definitely not at the beginning. I was being very cautious. And then there was a point where I was like, well, what if I can because I was still working for the school district at the time. So I was like, okay, well, what if I could take my business and actually make this happen? So I started signing up when I was still working from home. I was signing up for a lot of events where I could just show up and shake hands. And these people all knew each other. And I'm like writing solo to the point where people are like, oh my gosh, you came by yourself? That's so brave. I'm like,
that's the thing, right?
Point? And so that's even worse. Like how it was just I was going to say demoralizing. That is way too intense. That's not how it felt. But it was discouraging.
Right.
Like these people all know each other. So this isn't networking. This was an excuse to like get tax deductions for your party that you wanted to get with all of your friends. Like, cool.
Right.
Do your thing. But I'm like, this wasn't for me. And so since then, I found quite a few groups that tend to be women focused that are entrepreneurs and business owners all getting together, sharing ideas. That's where I just came from, which is why I have the lashes. And these have been really great. And some of them have become friends. We had Desiree on the show. I met her through a cowork, through a mastermind, and she's become a really good friend of mine.
Oh, good.
So those are cool, but they're also very specific. So the average person who moved from Kansas to here to become a teacher, I don't know why you would do that, but to become a teacher, that was a terrible example. Don't do it.
Don't come to Florida for that, please. Yeah.
You're not changing it from the inside out. I already tried.
It doesn't happen.
It's not. Sorry. You're gonna be sad. But as a bad example, or you moved from Michigan to Florida because you just needed some sunshine and beach,
or you moved here for a job.
You have a job, right? Like you're not looking to market yourself in that way,
right?
But you are marketing yourself.
Of course, we do it every day.
So back to your question, that was a great long way to get there. What if I have two ideas.
Okay.
What if there was a specific meetup for like either new Floridians, maybe there's a category for new Floridians and there's a category for natives. And because a lot of natives we're missing our friends that are spreading out.
Right.
I've considered leaving several times.
Well, I can understand that, right? This is not your typical Midwestern town, or it's very different. I can't explain it.
It is different. And then the pockets of South Florida have different personalities.
Absolutely.
How many TikToks have I seen? I don't think I sent you any of them, but they'll talk about the personality of like Hialeah
Oh, wow.
and the personality of Jupiter and the personality
Right.
of Boca and the personality of Brickell and or
Right.
Lauderdale Lakes. Like these are all very, very different places.
Absolutely.
Hialeah, you're not going to get very far speaking only in English,
Of course,
and
right.
and even if you speak like Colombian Spanish, you're not going to get very far either.
Right, you better
It's a
be
different
you better
accent.
be Cuban right there. Yes.
Side note, did you know that Miami English is being recognized as a dialect? We're going to have to talk about that because it's
I believe it.
blowing my mind.
That's crazy. Okay, it's a whole nother. That's some Spanglish right there.
It's Spanglish, but it's like Cuban Spanglish. So it's really, it's
Oh.
so interesting.
Speak of my language. Okay, I understand.
I will have to look into that.
Okay.
But in terms of how do you create these pockets of interaction,
Right.
so my one idea is maybe specific New Floridians or New Palm Beachers, Native Palm Beachers, like let's make friends.
Yeah.
Let's get together. Let's do happy hours. Let's do sober events. Let's do axe throwing. Let's do like
right.
beach get-togethers. You don't have to pay for that. And just
there
like
are
meetups.
There are things that already exist like that.
There are. Why aren't they working?
I don't know. That's what I'm wondering. Why aren't people doing them?
Well, Meetup is an app. It's a website.
Right. And there's another one, but you're gonna have to pay for me to say the name.
Oh,
just kidding.
Fair. Fair.
No, the events and adventures, right? And it costs a lot of money, and I was like, oh, that actually sounds like fun, but it's a full process, and it's like, I don't want to spend $200 a month.
But they're also corporate, right?
Right.
They're not local. They're not, drinking our water. They're not going to our coffee shops or our local spots.
Right.
But,
they're not a Jupiter. You're not going to find somebody in our, what's supposed to be a small town, which is kind of blown up, right? Huge.
Yes.
Huge for what's supposed to be a small town,
sure.
Right? And we have so many people from so many different places, right?
Yeah.
So, you're not going to, but again, they don't cater to our area or even the northern part of Palm Beach County.
Yeah.
Which is, again, like you said, very different than Boca, which is where they may have that. And
sure.
And if you're not going to click with maybe somebody who is in that area and you live further away.
There's I just remembered this. This wasn't an idea I had a while ago, but I think it's in Holland or the Netherlands. There's this woman who started a group where it's like 7 to 10. I think it's women specific, but it wouldn't have to be in my perfect world. That get together for a sit-down dinner, either at a restaurant or someone hosts it. And there's a cooked meal, and it's just 7 new people sitting at a table, all showing up to just like interact and talk. And it's small group. It's focused. Again, like the apps, you already know this is an invitation. You know what you're getting into. Right.
That the purpose of going is to meet other people.
And so that app has not left that country, but they are looking for people to. So I signed up to be a host whenever they bring.
Oh, I love that.
Whenever they bring it over here.
Okay.
To do like it would be. I don't like hosting at my house. It's just I don't.
Well, hosting it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it at your house.
Again,
I wouldn't want
beach.
7 strangers necessarily coming to my house.
Right. So for me, that would be we're gonna rent one of the pavilions at the beach and get together and have like beach snacks and hang out and bond and connect.
I agree.
So that's a really cool idea, but that's not here yet, and it's very successful over there.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
There's a lot. It's expensive to be a part of it.
Okay.
But you get a lot in return. Right.
Okay.
You're instant, and there is it's not a co-work. It's not an entrepreneur thing. Obviously, people might be more inclined to be in those types of groups to join something like that because it does cost money. But anyway, so why don't the groups that, like the corporate groups here, like meetup.com or other apps, why don't they work? Because they're not here. They're just trying to, they're throwing out the beacons, and if people bite, they bite. If not, they've got other metro areas that'll carry the rest of them, right? My other idea, I'm really ready to get shot down with this because I have not thought it out at all.
Okay.
But I love group work.
Okay.
I would be so down to host like a donation based, like monthly, like therapeutic kind of get together.
Okay.
Now, and again, to your point earlier, I'm not going to make friends out of this.
Right, but the point,
but other people are getting together and
Yeah.
connecting and almost making it like an AA type get together where you're
No,
like,
but I was
here's
thinking the
coffee
same
and
thing.
donuts, and
You guys get to know each other,
Mhm.
but we don't have to have a therapeutic reason for being here. Like
Yeah.
I send my clients to it, you send
Yeah.
yours. I love that idea.
It's going to be therapeutically hosted.
Right.
And we'll do waivers. We'll do all that kind of stuff. We can, I don't know if confidentiality is something that's going to be important for this kind of thing.
You really had to ruin it, didn't you, by saying all that? Just kidding.
But again, it being donation based. So, it's not going to be only people who can afford $40 can come to this.
Right, because the idea is that somebody may not come in the beginning because they just, like, I don't want to pay for it. I just want to see what it's like.
Which I think is completely
I think it's a great
appropriate.
idea. People pay for donation yoga.
Mhm.
What's the difference?
Right.
Okay. So
that's similar along something
love
that you
that.
were thinking about.
Yeah, I love that
Refine
idea.
it. Tell me.
Okay.
Buff out the edges for me.
Uh-oh. So let me get my buffer. I don't. I love the idea of people coming together that have that same. This kind of goes with that idea of the people in the house that they don't know that their therapist. They all have the same
reality
therapist, right?
TV show.
Yes. But I like the idea of us, like, without saying, oh, you know what? I have this client who would be awesome for you because now I'm breaking some boundaries I shouldn't. But the saying, hey, you know what? There's this event going on that we're going to put on, and I think you should go to that. Right? I'm not pointing out another person that's going to be there. And that's kind of the same thing as just if you have a normal group anyway.
Yeah.
Like, here, we're going to put on this event. These people all are clients. I mean, I guess that would have to be said, or I don't know. No,
because it's not up to us to say that.
True. Okay. So
People can out themselves.
True.
Because I do have clients that are like, they would be down for a Facebook group being Tara's therapy client.
Oh my God. I actually love that idea.
There are some people I might exclude, and they're not. They don't listen to my podcast, which is fine.
Oh yeah, I would definitely exclude some people for sure. But I would, yes,
only ones that would stroke my ego. Just kidding. That was a joke.
I agree with you. No, but I one of the things I want to say is, because this is a problem all over the world. I don't think this is just obviously a problem in our community, but it's not Florida versus anywhere else, although, we are very transient. So,
yeah.
But the issue is, just look over at the person next to you and smile, for goodness sake, right? We have to get out of our tunnel vision that the world is just about us and that we're here for only ourselves. Yes, we have to care about ourselves and have some boundaries, but there has to be we have to all kind of get out of our bubble of the world and just say hi, for goodness sake. Don't be such jerks and live in your bubbles. I mean, I'm right there too. I don't talk to my neighbors because I just don't think about it. So, sometimes I don't want to talk to my neighbors.
More reaching out, though.
But I think there's more reaching out that we need to do as humans, and forgetting that we are here because we need each other.
Yeah.
That's part of life, right? We can't live in this world without other people. We can't function on our own. If we could, then go ahead and live in your basement by yourself, but you're not going to function in life that way.
Right. Right. Or you might just get by. But what could you be missing out on? Is there opportunity here? And obviously in the business world, networking is everything because you never know who you're going to meet. But why can't we expand that to our own exploration of our backyards?
Exactly. Because then in networking, that's a transactional relationship.
It is.
Right. And
what can we do for each other?
Exactly. Right. When you're in those groups, you're trying to promote each other's stuff. Right. Which is great. That's the whole point of building it. Right. But that's not the whole point of meeting a friend, is not saying, I'll do this for you if you do this for me. I mean, that's not a great friendship, but, getting connections based on something, right? Where I work with a lot of veterans. So at one point it was, okay, you come out and you go to the American Legion and you go to, all these other groups. But now the younger people don't want to go to that stuff because it's all the old guys and they're all drinking and they're playing slot machines and they have nothing else to offer.
Yeah.
So it's not that they don't, it's that it's harder and they're trying to build those things up. But I think that the average young male or young female that's still in their 30s is not looking for that.
Right.
Right?
Right.
They're still looking for people who get them, and they're trying to figure out their world post-military, which is really hard. And trying to figure out how this knowledge they have in their head is going to translate to this outside world that a lot of times doesn't. So that's one thing that I see too. And then trying to integrate with their new jobs, their new life, and then people they feel are not noticing them.
Yeah.
Or they feel like they're not connecting. It's really hard. So that's where my that's where this came from. Hearing a lot of that.
Yeah.
Of people like noticing, and I hear it a lot of times. Like I go to the gym hoping that I'm going to meet some people, but they're just worried about how they look in the mirror.
Correct. Yeah.
And of course you go to the gym to work out, but you're working out communally.
But it's not if you're just at a regular like cardio section free
Right.
like that's not a community per se.
Exactly.
But then you'll hear like CrossFit as a community.
Right.
Sometimes Pilates or these my mom's in Jazzercise, like that's a community. Like she
Wow, that was a blast from the past. My mother.
It is current and relevant.
Woo,
and
really, my mother used to take Jazzercise when I was in high school.
Swappy's killing it. All right,
Really?
name dropping my mom. She is killing it.
Go,
She's
mama.
a fancy little lady.
I love it.
But no, the leotards are retired. So
oh, good. I'm glad to hear about
that's
that.
not a thing anymore. The dance moves are the same.
Oh, I love
Very
it.
similar.
I think that's great. Good for her.
Yeah, she's an amazing little lady. And Jazzercise, I have also done Jazzercise with her several times.
That's awesome.
And highly maybe that can be one of these get-togethers, is bringing back.
Right. Some old school
fitness.
stuff, right? Yeah.
That'd be great. Bring the thigh blaster.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what I want to, for me, what I would like to leave from this is, talk to your neighbors, talk to people, notice that the new people are wanting connection, right? Even if they're not new people, but they still want connection. It may not feel like that. It may feel like, and don't, like when we see somebody and we focus on the fact that person didn't talk to us, that means that nobody wants to talk to me. If we focus that way, if we focus more on negative, we're going to get more of that.
Yeah.
And then you start to feel like everything you touch turns to shit, right? And that's not a good feeling.
No.
So what I'm saying is I love the idea. Let's do that, right? This idea of doing groups and having people meet each other.
I'm about this.
Yeah. I mean, because really we're not in a practice that has people who shouldn't be getting together. Do you know what I mean? Like,
correct.
So
we don't need to be segregating our own clients.
No, right.
Like we're all humans needing.
We're all humans, right? Exactly. So I love that idea, and I'm definitely going to do that, and we can work on that together. And if you have an idea about how do you meet new people,
I might be posting about this on our social media before this episode releases.
For sure.
I'm excited
like,
about
how
this.
do we get these people together? Because there's an epidemic of people being lonely.
Isolation.
Isolation.
I've been feeling it since being a solo practitioner working virtually.
Right.
I'm really grateful for where my office is because I get to interact sometimes with folks there, but that office is to hold my mail.
Right. That's why you need to come be in my building. Right. Anyway, but that's why I have to work with people too. Even though I have a client right in front of my face, I need other people to have that camaraderie. That's my personality, right? If I was to go move somewhere else, I probably would still be able to make friends because that's my personality. But I think that some people that are in that middle, or they're having a really hard time in life, really just with change or with anything else, that it gets very discouraging. So to not have a friend nearby, or they moved away from their family and they don't have that. So remember, we all need each other. We all need to take care of each other. That's really our responsibility as humans.
I like this. So, this is definitely something that I think could take off, especially if it's donation based, especially.
Right.
And I don't think it has to be client specific. I think that's an easy pool to advertise for. But I mean, most of my clients aren't here. So I'm thinking about other avenues of, reaching out to, like, there's a coffee shop down the street called I Need Coffee, and they have a little conference room in
I love
their
it.
place. So they're big about community. I mean, it's like, It's good marketing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But there are other places like that, the chambers, and
Right.
I mean, those are, again, I feel like I'm getting stuck in businessy, but the Y, or
Yeah.
Palm Beach State, or like
Right.
these
Well,
places.
Palm Beach State has a Y there now.
They do.
So
That's why I made that connection.
I forgot
too.
about that. That's a new thing.
So there are these groups. There is this reach. I have my gym. I have my other communities that can become more enforced communities. Enforced is a weird word, but
right.
involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing
connected.
is getting all these things together. The whole idea is connection, and how do we get them there?
Yeah. But and I also like when you're mentioning veterans, I don't want to make it about them either. It doesn't need to be a veterans group.
Right.
If we're talking about integration into civilian life, why would we segregate them the way that they're already being segregated?
Right. They already feel that way. So we don't want to make that more that way, right? It is nice when they do have that connection to say, hey, I feel the same way about being out of the military. But I think the whole idea is that they're out of the military for a reason too. So they want to be with people. It's not that they don't. It's not that they're only looking for military people. So I agree with you. That's not the own point. Yeah.
Yeah. I like this a lot. I think this could take off. You're hearing a need for it. We're already seeing
right. We also need to start our dating app. So
this is a really good pool for us to gain some data. We'll be data mining I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We're better than BetterHelp. We won't do that to you.
Oh my gosh, for sure. We're giving them too much airtime. We need to
I only air them to bash them.
Oh, okay, good.
Make it very clear.
Remember that negative attention is still attention.
You're right. I did just get an email 700 are looking for therapy. I'm like, I bet they are.
I bet they are, right? So come to us instead, right? We will set you up.
Yes.
Yes, and yeah, so I think if we all just remember that we all really need each other and stop acting like we're better than everybody else, right? Like BetterHelp. The app that shall not be named.
You just did it.
Sorry. But anyway, so that's where we go, right? The idea is.
Yes.
Okay.
Treating each other like humans.
Yes.
Being
just say hi, smile, for goodness sake.
Showing up.
Yeah.
I already got my gears are turning about how we can facilitate this group. I already have an idea of wearing or bringing your favorite piece of clothing, and that's the go around. It doesn't have to be therapy.
Right.
But that's therapeutic. You learn something about somebody,
right.
but it can be as topical as you want it to
be.
But
so much is, right? We have this pigeonholed idea of that therapy is only I have to tell you every deep, dark, awful thing.
Yeah.
No, that's not all that therapy is. I mean, obviously that's incorporated, but we work on life stuff. This is life. This is why people are depressed. This is why people are feeling they can't leave their house because they're afraid of how somebody's going to treat them, or right. They have these ideas, not just that they're so scared and they can't leave their house. That might be that's a different thing. But the idea is that people have had a lot of experiences with other people that have been negative, and that becomes their reality. And so this would be teaching people that doesn't have to be the reality.
Yeah.
Not everybody is a jerk. There's a lot of jerks, but not everybody has to be a jerk.
Right. And we don't have to meet people by that first impression either. We are all capable of these things, but we're also all capable of being kind.
We all have asshole in us, okay?
Oh, yeah. The potential is there.
For sure. Okay. All right.
But yeah, humans showing up, reaching out.
Absolutely.
And we can help facilitate that.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Absolutely. Okay. So if you would love to be somebody who comes up with an idea of how to do this,
or has
a space or an idea, let us know.
For sure.
Help us build this.
Yeah, I like this.
Okay.
I think this is gonna take off. This is gonna be good stuff. We'll live stream our podcast from these.
There you go.
All right. Yeah. Well, you guys know how to reach us and give us these great ideas that you're going to have, because we're not going to be able to come up with all of them.
Exactly.
So you know where to find us on all of our socials. Find it in the show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, you already have access to everything. I don't need to tell you where to go, but go to the description.
There you go.
Follow, subscribe. Oh, that felt cringy to say.
It did.
But we will see you guys next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Sheri.